It's time to see who the real genius is, Thomas! And put our robot masters to the test!
You guys like that intro? I didn't think it was too bad. I have a knack for intros. Anyways, hello my lovely viewers of the World Wide Web. Welcome back to the TheJackedex show, and welcome back to another Mega Man comic review. Let's not waste any time and get straight into it. Yes, it's been a year since the last review. I get it. And let's not forget that as I am writing this video, there is still no news of Archie wanting to continue this series since that hiatus of theirs 2 years ago. Yeah, just pull the plug on the series and let another company handle the brand, guys. We all know it was stupid of you to hold back a bunch of the Sonic comics and tell us jack shit until just recently, so don't pull this whole, oh, we'll be back, don't worry. Anyway, concerning Mega Man, we've already covered the powered up adaptation involving Time Man and Oil Man. Dr. Wily has managed to escape and build up his new fortress and deadlier line of robot masters, so let's take a look and see what the result is. We begin our story in the ever so cheerful Light Labs, where Dr. Light, Rock, Roll, and new assistant Otto are all celebrating the victory over Dr. Wily's defeat and the retirement of Mega Man himself. You keep telling yourself that, guys. I think the only kind of Mega Man people want gone is the totally not Mega Man that made Concept look mismanaged and unworthy. Actually, I played Mighty No. 9 recently, and not to have a different opinion or anything, but I didn't think it was too bad. Unfocused, a bad presentation and questionable gameplay design aside, I'm glad I at least tried it out. Anyway, everyone seems to be completely forgetful of the fact that Dr. Wily is a complete threat to the world. Again, the fact that Dr. Light's viewpoints on Albert's threat levels is about as consistent and justified as Tony Stark peer pressuring a kid to fight for a biased cause against America's first Avenger for the sake of security, safety, and the greater good.
Shut it!
To be fair to the guy, in this issue, it's at least clarified that Albert doesn't have all the necessary funding and materials to really build his bases and robots. Except for the fact that he managed to do just that when constructing the Wily Castle and the Robot Masters. But I've already picked on Dr. Light enough. Just as they were talking about Dr. Wily and his inability to create Robot Masters, a Robot Master appears and sends Rock a warning.
Now that I have your attention, I'm here to announce that my creator, Dr. Wily, has returned. You in this city, to say nothing of the world, will pay for his past embarrassments. My 7 brothers stand ready to turn this city into rubble in 6 hours, unless the brave little Mega Man can stop us. And just Mega Man. Call the authorities, try an evacuation, and we start early. I'll give you an hour to find me in Titanium Park. That should be plenty of time, even for you.
So with no other choice but to strap on the blue helmet and ready the weapons, Mega Man heads out toward Titanium Park, the base of Woodman. It's cool how Ian Flynn, the writer for both this and Sonic the Hedgehog, decided not to have Mega Man start off in Metal Man stage like most Mega Man 2 veterans do. And it's kinda cool to see Quickman develop into this arrogant speedster who cares little for his comrades and waits for the opportune moment to taunt and egg Mega Man into battling every Robot Master. Why does he do this? Oh, you'll find out soon. So Mega Man makes his way to Woodman's throne room, taking a gander at his long stretch of wood, and tries to convince the lumberjack that he can give him an industrial purpose within Light Labs. They have themselves a little fight, and I have to say, the action is more or less the same quality as the previous story arcs, but one thing I've never really brought attention to in these comics is the art style and coloring itself. Each arc is penciled and colored by different artists. In this story arc's case, this was done by Ben Bates, but the most frequent and I think effective illustrators are Patrick Spaziante, Tyson Hess, and Ryan Giampoli. Not only do they perfectly replicate the feel, tone, and appropriate style of a Mega Man comic, but it also manages to create its own American comic book feel. If I could compare it to anything, take Avatar: The Last Airbender for example, a show created in America, but has a clear indication of being inspired by Japanese animation. You realize that the way they use expressions for comedic and serious appeal is done differently to most modern anime, and here it's the same sort of thing. You have designs that originate from Japan, and you could argue that because of its simplistic and over-the-top premise with a boy robot fighting a bunch of robot masters, it is very Japanese. But the way these panels are drawn, the way they use colors, by God, Matt Herms knows how to incorporate colors in his work so well. It's just... I could gush all day about this. No matter what issue you read, no matter what part of the comic you look at, everything has a simplistically drawn, yet beautifully complex colored story that shows that these guys are passionate in visual storytelling of the Blue Bomber. Anyway, I'm a little off track. After hesitantly taking out Woodman and acquiring the Leaf Shield, Rock heads into the Waterfall Planet, effectively taking out Kermit the Frog's obese cousins. Several minutes of Sega Bass Fishing Explosion 64 later, and we come across Bubble Man. Not the elemental hero, of course, but Rock manages to use his Leaf Shield to, quite easily, just tear him apart. You know, for a weapon made out of tea ingredients versus the bubble full of sulfuric acid, you'd think that the robot with goggles, a laser beam for a forehead, and a Doc Hopper's French fried frog legs costume would win the fight. After defeating Bubble Man, Dr. Light realizes that Rock's copy chip has detected a virus the second time he used his copying ability to obtain Bubble Man's weapon, and orders Rock to come on back to Light Labs to get him fixed up. Rock refuses to comply, bearing the fate of millions of civilians he must protect, but he gets ambushed by Speedy Gonzales Man, ending issue 9. So Quickman continues berating Mega Man over his inability to shoot him, before teleporting him to a molten factory. Mega Man continues his pursuit through the factory, bravely taking care of those dickish soda cans with eyeballs, before running into Heatman. He tries using Leaf Shield to protect himself, but I guess Dr. Light hasn't exactly programmed his son with the ability to read strategies and adapt certain weapons to particular scenarios before whipping out a giant bubble to drench the fucker in acid. He kills off Heatman, kind of sporadically turning back to his power-hungry self from the first arc, and makes his way to Crashman's base. Dr. Light puts together that Dr. Wily may have programmed some malicious coding in each of the weapons of the Robot Masters for Rock to copy, which explains why Quickman isn't finishing him off then and there, and why Rock's behavioral pattern seems to be going haywire. Mega Man manages to find Crashman, and arrogantly starts smart-mouthing off to the guy with needles and bombs for hands, but not long after bringing the place down upon each other, causing Rock to copy his powers again and kind of shadily set a trail of crash bombs behind to mercilessly blow his enemy up. I know this is all thanks to the malicious coding, but for a kid robot to do that, it's pretty dark. So of course, like an idiot, Rock forgets to be rational and jumps face forward into the next stage, transitioning us onto the next issue. Rock continues his masquerade through one of the more tricky and palm-sweatingly difficult stages of Mega Man 2, until he finally comes across Airman, who is actually one of the more funnier, stern robot masters I've read from the dialogue. But after being beaten around by wind of all things, Rock manages to use the last of what's left of his shield, get it? Kinda sounds like a Canadian slur when I say that. Anyway, we move on to the Mega Man veteran's first choice of stages, with Rock just instantly facing off against Metal Man. He gets sliced in the boot by one of Metal Man's blades, fucking ouch. but he manages to use his crash bomber to blow up the gears, creating enough of a distraction for him to simultaneously copy and plant a bomb on Metal Man. Now that's some mighty number 9 precision combo shit if I ever saw it. After defeating the oversized woodcutter, Rock insists once more that he'll keep going with the mission without returning to base, so he fucking punches his communicator out, fucking ouch, blocks the teleport signal manually, which I'm surprised that Dr. Elite allowed him to gain access to, and this is the part of the comic that I was always confused about. Remember in the first story arc where Rock had all that power get to his head and it changed his behavioral pattern a little bit? And remember how Dr. Light just instantly beamed him back to the lab to prevent any arrogant actions of Rock's part? Why couldn't he just do it here? I get that the malicious coding that Albert placed in each of the weapon data is infecting him in his ability to respond to certain actions and programming works, but it doesn't stop him from teleporting. Shouldn't Dr. Light be able to beam him up Scotty and just restrain him with Otto and the other Robot Masters? Well, in any case, Otto manages to finish up Dr. Light's newest designs for Mega Man, and is then ordered to bring in the Robot Masters, while Dr. Light creates an antivirus countermeasure. You couldn't just do that before he got this far? Oh, fuck it, who cares? Rock decides to go Solid Snake through Flashman's stage, which in this case is Ian Flint's version of saying that the top half of the ending part of the level is the best route, and he manages to make his way to Flashman's boss room. They have themselves a jump and shoot man competition, before Flashman humorously gets distracted by Rock's anime hair, considering that none of the Robot Masters have hair, causing him to be backstabbed by Captain Boomerang Man, Quickman, and Quickman shoves an energy drink into Rock to power him up once more, before leading him down one final goose chase through the laser beam factory. I'm sure it's called something else, but I fail to see what other uses it has aside from being a laser beam factory. They manage to speedrun the stage rather quickly, with Mega Man showing signs of reforming due to the antivirus upload, but Quickman decides to taunt him some more. Mega Man decides to show a bit of payback by fucking with him using Flashman's time stop, allowing him to charge up his Mega Shot, which technically he shouldn't be able to do canonically until Mega Man 4, and he manages to copy the last of the robot data. With all the pieces of the puzzle, Rock gets consumed by the malware, beamed up by Dr. Scotty Wily, now under his control. Honestly, this was a very clever idea of Dr. Wily to implement. He played it more carefully by taking countermeasures to ensure that even if his Robot Masters were destroyed, he would obtain the cause of their defeat. Not a bad plan at all. With Mega Man lost, the Robot Masters decide to team up and take their brother back once and for all. Time to move on to the finale. One clever homage to the European box art later, and we jump to the Wily Castle 2, where Dr. Wily is furbishing his Mega Man meets Proto Man scarf cosplay before he gets an alert that the original generation of Robot Masters have begun attacking. So now it's time to cut to the chase with a blazing attack, shock the enemy with a blast, have the guts to put the enemy on ice, and come up with an original attack formation involving oil. I don't know, be slick? That's the only joke I could come up with when writing this. Look, you get the point. All of Rock's brothers decide to use their respective abilities to launch a break-in. And honestly, it's just fun watching all of this visual noise. Because of how these shots just leap out of the pages, you feel like a part of the battle, and it really hypes up the adrenaline. It's also kind of funny how they manage to work in a joke with Gutsman and Cutman when they open up the doors, obviously paying tribute to the Ruby Spears cartoon. But before they can celebrate getting in, a blue-eyes green dragon bursts out of the ground, clearly Dr. Wily didn't pay the tribute cost summon, and manages to distract them before Mega Man arrives on the scene. But not 1 minute into arriving on the scene do they manage to subdue him long enough to upload the rest of the antivirus code, and they manage to take down the green behemoth. Yeah, bet you feel kinda stupid for not checking him earlier for any signs of the antivirus, huh, Wily? Anyways, Rock manages to obtain the new weapon data containing items 1 to 3, and while Elec Man, Cutman, Iceman, and Fireman are out, Mega Man enlists the help of the others to go after Wily and end things once and for all. They come across the Gutsman tank, humorously calling out Wily and the original boss designers for creative liberties, while Rock and Bomb Man make their way to the turret room, which they have no trouble dealing with. Lucky fuckers. and we have the final confrontation with the Wily machine too. But like most veteran Mega Man 2 players, he Metal Blades the shit out of Dr. Wily, which to this day I'm still convinced that Metal Blade should just be his default weapon now, and we get our surprise reveal that Dr. Wily all this time has been a space alien. Until Mega Man brushes his arm outside of the hologram space texture, blows up the ceiling generator, revealing Dr. Wily behind the capsule. Wily manages to escape once again. Mega Man hightails it out of the castle before it explodes. Man, if Castlevania did that instead of just tumbling to the ground, it would make everything feel a little bit more epic. And so the day is saved. Rock gets a support unit by the name of Rush, and we see Dr. Wily fly off to a distant location known as the Landfront Ruins. And there you go, folks. That was the return of Dr. Wily, the Mega Man 2 adaptation. And in my opinion, it was a pretty solid interpretation. Sure, there are times where the story kind of repeats the motions of the original story arc, but to its credit, for a series that follows a very basic, repetitive formula in its structure, it's interesting to at least see a new unique spin on how Ian Flynn wanted the Robot Master cycle to go, and to even incorporate the original line of Robot Masters as competent fighters. The only problem I really have with this story is that I guess maybe there could have been a bit more back and forth between Rock and the second generation of Robot Masters. I get why they didn't stick around for long. You only have so much of a story to tell with 8 bosses to deal with, and then an endgame climax, so it's completely understandable. When we come back, we're going to be introduced to another story arc that introduces us to the anti-robotics terrorist group, the Emerald Spears. Get it? Because of Ruby Spears and how they created the cartoon for Mega Man and... yeah, you get the joke. Until next time, take care of yourselves, have a good evening, and as always, stay awesome, lovely viewers. I'll see you all next time.